So good morning, everyone. I'm Natalia. I'm from Impulsouth, more specifically from Fundación Avina, and it's a pleasure to be here with you. We are going to present today in this conference the side event, Building Resilience by Better Assessing Risks, Gaps, and Opportunities to Build Capacities in Water, Food, Energy Nexus in the Global South. And while we are still waiting for some presenters, I'll just start the agenda, and we might get slightly a change in order here, but just give me a second. So the idea for this event is to introduce Impulsouth and a little bit with, of water, energy, food nexus. And we are presenting the research findings for the national assessments that the project coordinated in 6 countries, being Uganda, Madagascar, Niger, Zambia, Dominican Republic, and Guatemala. I will drop the link in the chat for you to take a look. So we are talking here about needs and gaps for building capacities in these countries for climate action. And we will have also 2 practitioners. That's Emmanuel, hi Emmanuel from UNU, and Paula Bart from Fundación Avina. They will be presenting 2 different points of views for opportunities in this area in Africa and Latin America. And Paula Ellinger is going to introduce Impulsouth as Climate Action Director from Fundación Avina. And yeah, I will leave it to you, and then we can start by the opportunities with Emmanuel and Paula. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Natalia. Good morning, good afternoon for our participants. I think we have people from different parts of the globe in this session, and I think that's a very enriching opportunity to build a conversation around this very important topic regarding how do we enhance the capacity to assess risks under a holistic and systemic approach, recognizing the nexus between water, energy, and food security. In that sense, we understand that it's increasingly recognized that disruption in one system leads to disruption in other systems, that risks are compounded, and that it's very hard to believe that but just by tackling issues or risks in water or food or energy, a systemic approach to resilience can be built. So while we recognize in the literature that there is an increasingly compounded risk to climate change affecting the water, energy, and food nexus, there are important challenges when it comes to effectively assessing the risks and thereby building the conditions for stakeholders to build resilience at national and local level. So, and it's looking at the challenges that there are for developing countries to assess risks and then undertake the systemic approach to risk assessment and resilience at the water, energy, and food nexus, that we, as Impulsouth, undertook a research looking at the capacity and needs gaps for assessing risks to climate change in sectors like agriculture and water, always understanding that the risks are interconnected and are affecting the different areas of life and that are building blocks for social and ecological systems to be resilient. So as part of this process in Impulsouth, we developed a methodology for research action that was undertaken in the 6 countries where we are working. The 6 countries are Madagascar, Niger, Uganda, Zambia, Guatemala, and Dominican Republic. And in each of these countries, we undertook, with the leadership of national research institutions, an assessment of what is missing, what are the knowledge and capacity needs and gaps to better assess risks to climate change. This was done looking at different sectors in each of the countries. In some countries, most of the countries, we looked into agriculture, which is a sector where there's vast literature highlighting the WEF Nexus. In the case of Madagascar, we looked at water at the city level, and in Guatemala, we looked at oceans and coastal marine systems. So today we would like to share a bit of what we found as capacity and knowledge needs and gaps to better assess risks in these sectors, understanding that it is by tackling these basic needs for assessing capacity and needs that we can then undertake an integrative approach to build resilience to the water, energy, food nexus. Then later, as Natalia said, we're going to share some practical experiences from developing countries on how this systemic approach is happening on the ground. With that, I'm happy to pass over the microphone to Annette, who I understand is going to be facilitating our conversation and the presentation of findings of this research. Thank you very much.
You are in mute, Annette. I think it's just, yeah.
Oh, yes. All right, thank you so much. It has been a struggle trying to get into the network, but finally I've made it. I'm very happy to be here. I'm Annette Diana Nanono, and I'm a climate leader with Impulsouth. I am glad to be here and to have this opportunity to moderate this engagement. Apologies for my son is a little disturbing, but it's okay, he will be fine. So Phil at Paris, the water, food and energy nexus is a big issue, and it is one of the biggest topics that were discussed well at COP27, because basically when we talk of water, food and energy, we are engaging the climate change intervention in the agriculture sector. And the biggest stakeholders here and the main stakeholders here are farmers. And it is very good that Impulsouth, as in partnership with all the other organizations like Avina Foundation and UNESCO are really giving it priority. And of course, with the data, the issue with the data, availability of data to facilitate all this is very important, and today's engagement is really going to help us see the gaps that are there from the researchers and the practitioners. That is really very relevant to us. So in the discussions today, we have Dr. Zo, we have Dr. Kadu, we have Paola, we have Chio, and we are really very excited that they are here. And they are going to share with us, the researchers, Kadu and Dr. Zo, are going to share with us what their findings. And then the practitioners will also share with us their experience, what they have really come up with. And it is really exciting. So maybe the researchers, we shall start with the researchers, they can briefly introduce themselves a little, Dr. Zo and Kadu, and then we shall go into the discussion. Thank you so much. Dr. Zo?
Hi, everybody. Hi. I am sorry. I will speak in French because I can follow in English, and you can ask me also in English, but I will present in French. I am sorry for the about finding of Madagascar. Have 5 minutes, please. Have 5 minutes or 2 minutes?
No, it's okay. Let's first do the introduction, then we shall later on get into the details. Thank you so much. Maybe Dr. Kadu can introduce himself also.
Yes, that's right. It's nice to join this presentation, this occasion. It is, I think, a great occasion. I'm John Kadu. I'm a professor of zoology at Makerere University. And I'm also, for the past over 10 years, the leading negotiator on adaptation for the Uganda delegation at the UNCCC. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, yes, I am Suwasan. I am from University of Antananarivo, and I am a professor at the Department of Water and Forest of Graduate School of Agronomic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We also have the practitioners. That is Paula. Paula, I think, has introduced herself already. Maybe Chio can introduce himself. Then we can go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. So my name is Emmanuel Chio, and I work with the United Nations University. We are based in Bonn, Germany, and hosted by the Vice Rector in Europe within a program called Pan-African Cooperation and Education Technology. So thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I am sorry, Paula. If I had come in late, I am sure, if I'm mistaken, if you've not introduced yourself, you can take this opportunity now. But if you did, apologies for that. So thank you so much, our researchers and our practitioners. Thank you so much for all that are present for this Nexus Field at Paris. So we are going to start with the researchers. We have, I'll start with Dr. Zo. Natalia will do the interpretation for us on his behalf. We apologize for the translation that the translation cannot be displayed here, so she will do the translation after his presentation. So we shall go to you, Dr. Zo. Dr. Zo, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we would like to hear from you, your findings from Madagascar, your findings about the gaps that are in this nexus of the foods, the water, and the energy sector. So what are your findings that you can share with us now?
Merci.
Yeah, oui.
Merci. Donc, nous avons fait des recherches sur les risques, les besoins en capacité, le besoin en connaissance lié donc aux risques sur le secteur eau de la ville d'Antananarivo. C'est ça l'objet de la recherche. C'est donc quels sont donc les besoins en capacité et les besoins en connaissance liés à la vulnérabilité du secteur de l'approvisionnement en eau, puisque l'eau, c'est vital. L'eau, c'est vital pour la capitale. Et c'est pour cela qu'on a choisi vraiment ce thème-là qui concerne plusieurs parties prenantes, les consommateurs, les ONG, sociétés civiles, et aussi donc surtout les ministères, les décideurs politiques. Il y a tout le monde qui est concerné pour ce risque du secteur de l'eau lié au changement climatique. Voilà donc l'autre. Et pour les principaux résultats, je vais dire, c'est donc nous avons pu identifier des problèmes, mais aussi des recommandations clés. Donc, comme recommandation clé, c'est donc le besoin de renforcement de capacité, surtout au niveau des institutions, puisqu'il n'y a pas vraiment beaucoup de spécialistes. Il n'y a pas vraiment beaucoup de spécialistes sur l'évaluation au niveau des institutions, c'est là nos résultats. Il n'y a pas de spécialistes, donc c'est mieux de penser vraiment à le renforcement de capacités institutionnelles au niveau des secteurs, puisqu'il n'y a pas vraiment de spécialistes, il manque de spécialistes. On paie toujours, on a besoin toujours des consultants. Vraiment, on a besoin de consultants. Et c'est pour cela qu'il y a des gaps. Il y a des gaps au niveau des connaissances institutionnelles. Il y a des gaps au niveau des spécialistes. Il y a des gaps au niveau des experts pour faire l'évaluation. C'est ça le premier constat. Donc, c'est mieux de renforcer les capacités humaines. Et il faut donc trouver plusieurs spécialistes. Il faut former des spécialistes pour qu'on puisse vraiment analyser ces vulnérabilités liées aux risques climatiques concernant le secteur. Voilà, donc et puis la disponibilité des données aussi, ça c'est un défi. Je pense que ça c'est similaire pour tous les pays, puisque on a des problèmes de difficulté d'accès aux données aussi donc si on voudrait vraiment analyser faire l'évaluation, il faut que l'État surtout donc il faut que l'État trouve le moyen d'avoir des données et de créer vraiment ces bases de données qui peuvent être donc utilisées par tout le monde pour que tout le monde puisse accéder à ces données-là et les utiliser, puisque l'accès aux données, c'est un peu délicat. Il y a des données confidentielles, il y a des données qu'on ne peut pas vraiment accéder, qu'on ne peut pas utiliser. Ça, c'est une recommandation. C'est de la constitution d'une base de données au niveau national, au niveau régional et pourquoi pas aussi local. Voilà un peu. Donc, il y a deux recommandations. Hein? Voilà.
No, I just stepped in for a little translation and summary. I will not translate everything, but the research in Madagascar and in every other countries from Impulsouth was about risks and needs and gaps in capacity building and knowledge, capacity building and also knowledge gaps. And Madagascar was focused on water sector because water was the most important sector for them, and it involves everyone in the country. And Dr. Zoe presented two biggest results from this research. That was that reinforced capacities in these countries are one of the most important needs. And because there are not so many specialists that can really work on it, so we need to reinforce this capacity. We need to reinforce capacity building to go toward this, and
yes.
Also he said that he couldn't point that all of global south countries have this one problem in specific, and also other one that is data disponibility. So the data access is not really improved. So there are some data that cannot be accessed from these countries, and this caused also a problem, a basis problem that cannot. These two problems are just initial, and without them we cannot move forward. So yeah.
Yes.
And I think we can go to the second question, and then I just do a brief summary.
So thank you so much, Dr. Zoe. So the second question is basically, it's almost connected to the first one, but I would like Dr. Zoe to also give us the the risks, they give us the findings on the capacities to assess the climate risks in the sector and the research that he has been carrying out, and the perspectives and better access compounded risks that can be developed. Apologies. Synergetic measures of adaptation in the water, food, energy, and nexus, and the capacity is really needed in order to improve this and to bridge the gaps within this sector. So is that maybe Dr. Zo can help us answer that, then we get the interpretation after the presentation. So we can go to Professor Kadu. Thank you. Dr. Zo, are you there?
Yeah, I am here.
Yes.
There is a question?
Would like to share with us the capacities needed. The capacities needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, in order to bridge the gaps.
Yeah.
In the measures, in the intervention, in the adaptation, in the water, food, and energy nexus. What are the capacities that need to be built according to your presentation? What you've told us, the institution is to build there.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the question. Donc, il y a plusieurs capacités qui devraient être renforcées. C'est le renforcement de capacités, surtout méthodologiques, le renforcement de capacités méthodologiques, puisque partout on a besoin de faire de l'évaluation, mais il n'y a pas vraiment de méthodologie. Il n'y a pas vraiment de méthodologie appropriée pour la conduite de l'évaluation, à la fois au niveau local et surtout régional. Mais il y a des méthodologies connues, mais ce n'est pas donc maîtrisé par tout le monde. Donc, c'est ça un des défis. Hein. Un des défis pour atténuer, pour pouvoir s'adapter au risque-là, c'est de développer des méthodologies appropriées aux besoins des acteurs. Et c'est ça le défi. Hein. Il faut donc développer des méthodologies appropriées aux besoins des acteurs à plusieurs niveaux, puisque si on travaille au niveau local, on devrait avoir une méthodologie appliquée, applicable au niveau local, puisque à ce niveau-là, les gens ils n'ont pas de capacités méthodologiques élevées. Et c'est pour cela qu'on doit avoir des méthodologies adaptées au niveau des gens, au niveau des stakeholders. Ça, mais c'est aussi la capitalisation des bonnes pratiques. Hein. La capitalisation des bonnes pratiques, c'est aussi un point, puisque il y a des bonnes pratiques au niveau des projets, des bonnes pratiques au niveau local, mais qui ne sont pas capitalisées. Alors que si on connaît vraiment ces bonnes pratiques-là d'évaluation, je pense que on peut vraiment partager ces bonnes pratiques-là à différentes échelles, à la fois méthodologique et à la fois aussi pratique d'adaptation. Et je pense qu'on doit capitaliser donc les bonnes pratiques à la fois méthodologiques et aussi au niveau de l'adaptation même. Donc, c'est ça. Et puis, c'est au niveau de, je ne sais pas si c'est encore, mais il faut faire aussi des lobbying pour l'État, hein, au niveau de l'État, décideurs politiques, pour qu'ils soient vraiment conscients de l'importance de ce risque sur l'eau, puisque ils ne sont pas vraiment les décideurs politiques, ils devraient être plus conscients de l'importance de la problématique. Voilà.
So yeah, Dr. Zo pointed that, that there are many capacities that have to be strengthened, and they are mostly linked with methodological approaches. And in order to do this evaluations of risks and needs, there are a lot of methodologies that are available, but they are not being used properly used, because people cannot, they do not know how to use it. And sometimes they do not know how to translate it to territorial actions like local and regional data collection or evaluations of risks. And another point Dr. Zo brought, it was that there are a lot of local projects that are not being capitalized and they're not moving ahead because also they're not in a awareness from the state, for example, national awareness that this water sector, for example, is really vital for Madagascar in this instance. Just a quick reminder, we shared the link for the national assessments in the chat, so you can follow a little bit further these recommendations. And thank you very much, Dr. Zo. Annette, I think you can proceed. Sorry, Dr. Zo, do you want to say something?
No, I think I have no additional point, no, but I can come back if need.
Merci, merci beaucoup, Dr. Zo.
Merci.
Annette, I think you can proceed with the questions for John Kadu and yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Zo. Merci.
Merci.
Yeah. Okay. So Professor Kadu is a researcher and has had the opportunity to look at the cases and the cases in this sector in the climate risks, assessing the climate risks. So Dr. Kadu is going to elaborate for us a little on what he has been doing, and we'll appreciate if he can share with us the approaches that go beyond this sector and address the compound risks involved in this sector. Thank you so much. Dr. Kadu, to you.
Thank you very much. Do you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, thank you. It may be noise at some stage because it is a public holiday here in Uganda today, and people are celebrating the Eid festivities. So the noises here and there passing by the place. So I shall reflect on the capacities that are needed to move beyond sectoral perspectives and better assess compounded risks and develop more synergistic measures for adaptation in the nexus, water, food, and energy. Now, the capacities, we found it to be in various dimensions. And these are the following. We have institutional capacities are needed, and then human capacities, and then capacities related to knowledge. Regarding institutional capacities, there's need for a range of institutional amenities or facilities. For example, funding and infrastructure for data collections. As we know, data collection is a key aspect in research. And secondly, we found that there's need for office facility, the facility in terms of office to develop a climate change action plan that would galvanize planning and response And lastly, in terms of institutional capacity, there's a need for adequate capacity for data correction, being able to correct data and analyze it and then disseminate it. Now, in a nutshell, in that area, we found a need for improvement in infrastructure for data correction, storage, and retrieval. That by, for example, digitizing weather stations, by purchasing computers, more powerful computer capacity, and improving internet access. And secondly, we also need to build capacity for climate change action and adaptation planning, action and planning as such, and the need to recruit more staff, in other words, the shortage of staff, including a climate change officer, maybe somebody specifically for handling climate change issues in the key departments of institution that are linked to the Nexus. Now, regarding human capacities, the previous was institutional, but regarding human capacities, the aspects include the following. The staff need skilling, so we need to provide skills to staff for addressing compounded climate change-related risks such as drought affecting water for humans, for crops and livestock, and risks affecting food. Now, also another aspect regarding human capacities, we found a need for an office specifically, to galvanize and plan compounded responses. For example, ability to predict a bad season and ability to plan possible response measures. Lastly, in terms of human capacities, training in various aspects, including climate change vulnerability assessment, participatory planning, and climate change action planning, adaptation, and mitigation. Now, regarding knowledge, we found a need for knowledge among staff on various issues, including the following. One, climate change issues across sectors, including vulnerability assessment and planning, adaptation, and mitigation. And secondly, research methods, data analysis, interpretation, and reporting. So in a nutshell, in terms of knowledge, there's a need to equip staff with the climate change-related knowledge across sectors. Are you still with me? That's all on that question. I have two questions. Maybe I put a pause there and I get back to the coordinator. Over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Kadu. Yes, actually, you can go ahead to the next question because it is really directly linked to that. What are the opportunities? What are the opportunities that are there?
Yeah, thank you very much. The second aspect is on opportunities, you've said. We found opportunities or best practice in the following. The gender consideration at subnational level. We found that the communities and the subnational level do consider gender perspective, although not in the standard scientific way. But the fact that they take into consideration gender, that is an opportunity, it is an asset in that. If you're going to do work, the Nexus, we have some starting point. Also, we found that they do conduct participatory rural appraisal of the PRA, but again, not in the proper scientific way. So the fact that they're aware of that and they're conscious of that is also another opportunity if we're going to do further work. Thirdly, awareness about climate change issues in the subnational areas. Yes, across the board, there's awareness of the consciousness about the drought, about the impact of drought and so on. And then the existence of staff with some knowledge, though limited, on how to assess climate change vulnerability in the subnational perspective. So there's some staff who are able to do that, but again, not in the scientific way. And lastly, the staff awareness of possible climate change adaptation measures. Again, more of a coping strategy, but there's that a sensation among the staff, kind of awareness. That's all in terms of the second question. Thank you. Over.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Kadu. Yeah, it is really good that you've shared with us what out of experience, and I believe there are so many researchers here that can pick, unless there is something maybe like a good practice. If there is any, like maybe one good practice from your experience that you can share with the other researchers that can be used, they can apply in their research in this, while assessing the climate risks. Is there any like one good practice that you can encourage them to use?
Now, sorry, you give me a go ahead and I speak.
It's okay,
Shall
you can
I?
go ahead. Just 1 minute.
Yes. Yeah, I take a half a minute. One good practice is to involve politicians. You know, when a politicians say, let it be, it will be. If a politician says, let it not be, it will not be. So it is paramount that we involve politicians right from the beginning. And the politicians want to see a solution to climate change related problem. And they want to see this yesterday. So that's a good practice. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Kadu. That's really encouraging, though some of us fear politicians, but I know you're actually saying the truth. It's very important. So we shall move ahead to the practitioners, and apologies for having confused the two names. There are two practitioners that I know here that share the same name. So we missed out on the introduction from the practitioner that is going to share with us, and that is Paula. But I would like the practitioners to share with us one case where compounded climate risks have been identified and addressed. That is one. Then the second one that I would like to hear from them is what capacities are important to ensure a climate adaptation approach that takes into account the water, energy, and food nexus instead of just one sector. And then the third one that we'd like to hear from them is how were their capacities built? Because they have done this over time, so we would like to hear from them how their capacities been built in this. Over to you, Emmanuel, Chair. And later on, we can hear from Paula also. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Annette, for the opportunity. And I already introduced myself that I'm Emmanuel Chio from the United Nations University, and I'm an associate academic officer at the university. What I will try to do I'm going to give a presentation, and what I'm going to try to do is to bring another perspective of the discussion, whereby while building capacity to assess risk, it's very important. There are also other capacities that are important when you take into consideration the overall frame of climate change risk, particularly at the local level. So that is what I'll be bringing in the discussion with my presentation, whereby I will be giving presenting a case study in a project that we are implementing in Gambia and in Gambia and Mali. So it's an ongoing project, but it looks at the experience in Europe, but then reflecting it on what we have observed so far in those two countries. So I will go ahead and share my screen, and I will limit myself. I'll try to keep to time because it's 50 minutes has been allocated for me for my presentation. So so this is my slides, and I hope you can see my slide.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
then that's
it's clear.
great. Thank you. So I've titled my presentation, Implementation of Agrophotovoltaic, the main challenges and lessons learned based on a case study in Africa from Europe. And as I mentioned, it's within the frame of a project funded by the German government. And the outline of the presentation looks like this. I will give a brief background or introduction of the project, and as well as the overall frame of the presentation. Then I will talk a little bit about the project. Thereafter, I present challenges and lessons learned from the project. Then a conclusion. So one of the biggest threats in the agricultural sector, when you think about climate change, it's drought and changing temperature, particularly with what it's been experienced in the case study country where we are implementing this project, whereby the temperatures are increasingly, or the environment is increasingly getting hot, and technology have been suggested as a kind of a fundamental tool or instrument to reduce and manage this risk from climate change. And this kind of technology also could be derived from the WEF perspective, like for example, the agrophotovoltaic, as you can see from this picture, figure 1, whereby it's a combination of generating energy and cultivating agriculture on the same piece of land. The PV's model, the photovoltaic models are suspended at about a height of 2 meters, so as to permit some form of agriculture to take place below. And in this regard, the photovoltaic, they serve as a kind of shade to the crop, creating a microclimate below, which favors crop yield. At least this is based on experience from Europe, from some case studies in Europe. Besides the production or the generation of energy and crop cultivation, such an opportunity or such a system also offers the opportunity of expanding large-scale photovoltaic generation while also keeping agricultural land usable. And it also helps to prevent fertile farmland, and also offers an opportunity for farmers to diversify their income. So this picture basically shows the different types of agrophotovoltaic system that you can think of, showing a little bit how how you can structure or design your structure based on your light, the need of your light, or the kind of crops that you want to grow. So there are different ways on which you can design your agrophotovoltaic system depending on the form of agriculture that you want to engage yourself. So we have the overhead tracking, the one I mentioned in the first picture, but you also have the ground mounting approach, as you can see from the 2 pictures below. So in our project, the vision, it's more or less, how do you provide food, water, energy to a local population, but also increasing their resilience to agriculture, to the agricultural sector against climate change, which is the overall topic of our session today, increasing the resilience of the community against climate change. And what we are trying to test or to prove in our project is the technical and economic viability of this kind of integrated triple land use system. And a key component also of the project is that we will integrate a business concept that could generate some income for the local community, which will help also to not only to increase their resilience, but also enhance their livelihood. So it is a research and development project, and we intend to install 5 different demonstrators, 1 in Mali and 4 in Gambia. So what I'll be trying to present now in the next slide, it's the challenges and lessons learned. And this is going to be in 2 forms. One, focus more on lessons learned based on experience of different installations around the world. And another form of lesson learned, it's what we have experienced so far in the project. So as in the process of conducting research for the installation of our demonstrator. So yeah, this slide shows the advantage when you think of why agrivoltaic it's important. If you currently the way agriculture is being conducted, or the way PV systems are being installed, you see it's installed in 2 different pieces of land, which sometimes results to conflict because of lack of space or enhancing deforestation in a situation whereby land is needed to install PV systems. But with the agrophotovoltaic system, there is a combination of both on the same piece of land. And based on calculations done, they said it enhances, or it heals to a 186% land use efficiency, which is quite good in context or in conditions whereby there's lack of space. This is much viewed at the macro level, but when you look at it from a micro level, there is also the improve of the microclimate, particularly below the PV system. And there is also benefiting from the partial shading. There is also the reduce of soil temperature, and which is very important for the crop growth. And also there is also generally, just to summarize, that the improved microclimate is beneficial for the crop, at least for the examples or the experiment conducted so far in other countries. When you think about looking at the technology, particularly with the research that we are currently conducting, it provides us the opportunity to design and optimize our system, taking into consideration the local context, the material, and also the available capacity, because that is key, since it's since sometimes transfer of technology might be challenging due to lack of capacity. Another opportunity also, what we are trying to establish within the framework, is the use of local material, because the system could be expensive if we want to do a kind of one-on-one transfer based on what is currently being installed here in Europe. And another opportunity also is rainwater harvesting opportunity using the PV panels, the surface of the PV panels, thereby providing water, another water source for agriculture irrigation, particularly in the context of the Sahel region, whereby they have a very short period of rainy season, and sometimes this water causes flood, but if you can harvest it, it could be used to extend the period of agriculture. One of also the challenges for such a system or such a technology, is, as I earlier mentioned, could be the deployment of the system, whereby in some locality, rural areas, the technical know-how might not be there. And also sometimes the material are not available, or you would need to transport them over a long distance. Another challenge also could, particularly if you want to install this kind of a decentralized system, is the necessary skills for operation and maintenance. As you can see in the picture presented, you see those are irrigation pipe in a farm that we visited, in a garden that we visited in the Gambia. A youth garden that was also funded from one international organization. Those are pipes, irrigation pipe that are abandoned because the community, they lack the necessary skills of maintaining such a system. And the second picture below, it's a PV system which is covered with dust. So these are some of the challenges that are experienced in Africa, and which not having the necessary capacity or understanding or basic capacity just to maintain such facilities or such installation might be challenging to maintain such installation. Looking further also in technology, I think the opportunity when you think about solar in Africa, it's that the technology is available, it's getting cheaper. So that is an opportunity to explore. And also, as I already mentioned, that the agrophotovoltaic system permits you to choose the gap or the amount of sunlight that you need. So that is an advantage of such a system. It helps you to regulate the amount of light. And as I already mentioned, another challenge, if you look, for example, our case study in the Gambia, because the map here shows the map of the Gambia, we are planning our installation where the circle, where you see the circle, which is far interior into the country. And if you think where Banjul is, very close to the coastal region, it's quite a good distance, and just to transport material from Banjul to the proposed site of our installation, it's quite challenging. Particularly, sometimes the roads are not so accessible. And last but not the least, also in some contexts, leapfrogging strategies are seen to be good, but sometimes it could be challenging in some rural community, particularly because advanced technology sometimes needs advanced technology have developed over time, but introducing it in a community might be difficult because they don't have the necessary capacity. When you think about the agricultural sector, what we are in, at least an opportunity from the research that we are doing, is that we are testing such a system in a semi-arid climate region. And through that, we'll be able to establish scientific standards, which could be applied, not only limited to these two countries, but also in countries of a similar climatic condition. Also, the crop performance is something that we are also testing with our experiment. But looking at the challenge, it's that even though the technology could be used to address one specific climate risk, for example, in this context, high temperature, there are also uncontrollable factors, such as flooding, that we cannot control with the system. So these are also other things to pay attention to when you're addressing climate risk, because you might be addressing one, but it opens up for others. And also something that we cannot control is the global demand shift for materials to install such a system. I mean, when you think about trying to benefit the community or building their resilience, sometimes the shift in global market could affect materials for installing such a system. Another challenge also is the societal the changing of traditional habits, the form of cultivation, the type of crop might be difficult. Take into consideration that such a system might favor the growth of specific type of crops. So these are things that needs to be taken into consideration when introducing technology that support adaptation in climate change. I already mentioned in terms of the socioeconomic, the opportunities could be direct. I mean, whereby water, energy, and food could be produced. There are also indirect benefits, because then it introduce a kind of a new portfolio of agricultural product and also new business. And the benefit also could be spillover, such as creating new jobs opportunity and upgrading or innovations into other regions. I already mentioned about public acceptance could be a challenge in some rural areas. And also the business scheme also might be challenging, because there are communities that are used to receiving things for free. So trying to introduce a business scheme might not be acceptable. And last but not the least, also the payment mechanism in some rural communities might be difficult. So innovations or a good strategy needs to be think of on how to introduce payment schemes in some communities. Policy and regulatory also, it's something that is quite vague in some contexts. So what our project also is trying to do, or the opportunity available that we are trying to create with our project, is to conduct research to identify some policy gaps, but also making propositions on potential policy gaps, and then defining standards on how such a system could be installed in communities, in different communities in Africa. Because so far in some countries, there are no policy when it comes to agrivoltaic, which might pose a problem in installing this kind of a system. So to conclude, the agrivoltaic offer a sustainable solution to leverage synergies between water, energy, food nexus, which does enhance the livelihood of local communities. It also improves the access in rural communities, because these are systems that could be installed, decentralized systems that could be installed in far interior communities without necessarily connecting to the grid. But however, in installing this system, you definitely need to pay attention on the local norms and traditions of this community. But last but not the least, also, there should be a basic form of capacity building, so as to educate these communities on how to maintain, operate such system, not detailedly, but at least providing a kind of a first aid training or capacity of maintaining such a system, while waiting for technicians who might be located in the capital city to come and do measure repairs. So I would like to end my presentation with the below quote. that a problem is just kind of a misunderstanding of the opportunity. So thank you very much, and I'll be looking forward if there are questions during the question and answer or during the discussion time. So I will stop here for now.
All right. Thank you so much, Chair. So this is really a wonderful case study, and we have a question. There's a question for you. This project seems expensive on micro level. Can it be made cheaper so that a local person can afford it? Is there a way it can be made cheaper?
Thank you very much for the questions. I think it will depend on what you mean by cheaper, because that is also part of what we want to achieve in the frame of the project, to try as much as possible to use local materials, because only through that you help to reduce the cost. Yeah, so it's basically trying to use local materials so that you reduce the cost.
So by saying local materials, do you mean where you use the aluminum, one can use wood? What are those alternatives that we are talking of, that you're talking of, the local materials, to substitute what as an alternative for what exactly in the system?
Like, for example, sometimes purchasing technical material from Germany might be more expensive than purchasing it from India. Those are some of the options that we are looking at. But also locally, there are some steels material that might be cheaper than if you want to import what we have in Europe. So that is exactly what I meant by try as much as possible to make use of local material, but also setting standard, because also building a system that is not long lasting. An estimation of such a system, it's I think it's 25 years or 30 years. So being a system that could not last that long, then it does not help the overall approach.
Yeah, and for that case study that you shared with us, what is the acreage? What acreage did that system cover?
In Mali, we are aiming for 150 kilowatt peak system, because what we are also trying to demonstrate with the system is that there are a lot of studies that shows that solar energy is the future of Africa, because it's becoming very cheap and affordable. And if everybody is installing this kind of a system, then there will be no space. And so what we are trying to demonstrate with the system is that a combination of agriculture and such a system helps you to manage your land space in an efficient way. And in order to be for such a system to be effective, then it needs to be big, because then you can easily have the shading effect. You can really, because if the system is small, then light could be coming in from everywhere. Then it does not help you to have this experiment of crop benefiting from shading effect. So we try as much as possible to keep a big system so as to experiment with this crop. That is why we went for a 150 kilowatt peak system in Mali. And then we are aiming for small system size in Gambia because of the community size as well. You cannot oversize energy of a community when it's not needed. So in Gambia, we are aiming for 60 kilowatt peak per community for the 4 different demonstrators.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chair. I think feel free for the participants present, feel free to reach out to Chair, just in case you want to know more about these projects and the capacities, how the capacities were built. And also would like to get your presentation so that we can see how it can be localized further. Thank you so much. So we can go ahead to Paula. Paula, you're welcome to the space.
Thank
The
you.
questions are the same.
Can you see my screen? Am I sharing?
Yes.
A PowerPoint presentation, yes?
Yes, you can maximize it.
Thank you.
Maximize it.
Well, good morning or good afternoon. My name is Paula Bird. I'm a program coordinator at Fundación Avina, and I'm based in Asunción, Paraguay. And I would like to address my presentation by presenting two cases from Latin America. I will be talking about what we call El Gran Chaco Americano, which is a region right in the center of our continent, covering part of Argentina, Brazil, and Paraguay. The Chaco has about 9 million people living here, but it's a very important ecosystem because of its biodiversity and its importance in conserving water. And it is home especially to a quite wide variety and diverse ethnic populations, which also make it culturally very significant. I will also be talking briefly about the Brazilian semi-arid region, which is in Northeast Brazil. It covers about 10 states with a population of 22 million people. Both of these ecosystems are quite vulnerable. They are considered semi-arid, but it doesn't mean that there is no rain. It just means that although it rains quite a lot, it does in very distinct periods. So water is not necessarily available the entire year. So water conservation and collecting is very important. So let me focus first on the Chaco region. And in a climate study that Avina helped fund in Paraguay in 2019, it was evident that due to climate change, we were having shifts in rainfall patterns. Our extreme and temperatures were rising. And although we still had quite a lot of rain, the drought periods were changing. So with this shift in rainfall patterns, we had longer drought periods, and they have changed. They were not necessarily happening where they're used to. So a native ancestral knowledge about rain and how to prepare for drought periods were no longer being effective. This also meant another climate change risk was that even though it was still raining, the rainy season have shortened and have become more extensive, leading to more droughts, even flood events, more forest fires. And how does this shift in climate affect? I'm sorry, are you still seeing my screen? Yes. So how does this shift in climate affect populations, especially now I'm talking about the Chaco? So the cisterns that have been used, that have traditionally been used to collect rainfall from roofs, were no longer being effective. They were not collecting as much rain as they could because of these intense rain periods. They are losing a lot of drains. Mostly dirt roads are inaccessible during rainy seasons. Sudden floods, as in around the Pilcomayo River, affect, of course, population, but also affect small agriculture and small producers and their livelihood. Both of these sources are the main source of livelihood for populations in the Chaco and also in the semi-arid. So being able to understand rain patterns is fundamental, and being able to collect and manage as much water and rain as possible is extremely important. The increase in forest fires I have also mentioned, and another important fact is that usually, especially in Paraguay, most of our energy, 80% of our energy comes from hydroelectric dams. So when river levels are affected, then so is electricity production. This is a picture of what the Chaco, parts of the Chaco look like during drought periods. And I would like now to talk about and to exemplify what we have been doing, both in the Chaco and in the semi-area, to help populations better adapt and have more tools to be managing these new conditions, these new climate conditions. As in the presentation that preceded me, appropriate technology is a must. And when I talk about technology, I want to refer to both soft and hard technology. We've been building capacities both from the bottom up and from the top down, and I'm going to be addressing those two approaches as well. We work with, let me first here talk about what we have been doing in Brazil in the semi-arid. We work with ASA. ASA is a network of more than 3,000 local civil society organizations. And ASA has been very instrumental in developing a cistern. As you can see in the picture, technology, they have expanded. So they have a cistern which has a capacity of 16,000 milliliters for homes. These cisterns are built around the community. So the community members decide which families will be first awarded the systems. They are trained in how to build them, and they are especially attentive to using local materials, because we know that definitely affects the price. We also work in school cisterns, which have a capacity for 52,000 liters. And here we go along with an entire educational also capacity building, not only for teachers and print school administrators, but also for children. So the entire community comes around in the construction and the maintenance of these cisterns. And this is what we call the social technology around the cisterns. And the school cisterns also, whatever sewage we can collect in these schools are used for vegetable gardens that are also part of the curriculum. And I do not have a picture, but another technology that ASA employs are cisterns used for agriculture. So collecting whatever runoff comes off from neighboring lands and making sure all that water is stored, and is also very important for seed production, for agriculture production, and the like. We've also been working on more like IT technology. We work with local communication networks. We have been working with internet access. We focus on internet as a human right and as a right that enables other rights to be met. We work with groups of women and groups of small producers and such. We train them on scientific knowledge, what climate change is, how it's impacting them, how to better adapt, and what are some adaptation strategies that have worked in other places that they can also implement. We have worked with establishing, we call them NANUM, technology centers in different indigenous communities along the Chaco, both in Bolivia, Paraguay, and Argentina. These networks also help them have access and being able to notify neighboring communities, for instance, that rain has increased, the Pilcomayo River water level to increase. We've helped establish WhatsApp groups. WhatsApp is very popular in Latin America. So what they do is communities, north of the river, have been able to communicate to communities down the river what is happening, and they have been able to either move their animals, for instance, and get them away, or be able to themselves translate to a community nearby. And that is how We've also worked with a network of communicators that connect different local radio stations that have been trained on how to read meteorological data. They all they all have rain gauges and other equipment to help monitor and to help predict what the season's gonna bring. And we never do this without making sure that local knowledge has been installed. We also train local government officials, and they are part of the community, right? So we give them the tools that they should need to work on local adaptation plans. And we also have worked at the national level and help our national governments work with climate change adaptation plans that take into account the different regions that our countries might have. So a plan, just a single plan, for example, all of Paraguay wouldn't work because the Chaco region is so different from the rest of the country, where we have, subtropical rainforests and abundant rain in different types of soil. And probably there, we don't really need as much as a rain collection as we do in the Chaco area. So I guess that is my final lesson learned, if you will, that it is not enough to just focus on one climate risk or one approach, but we must work at different angles. We must do this collaboratively. We must work with all sectors involved, and we must, at every step of the way, cherish and recognize and value traditional knowledge, and be sure that whatever we are doing, we take into account culture, we take into account local language, and we take into account these values that have been in these populations for centuries. So, and it has been a pleasure. Thank you, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
All right, thank you so much, Paula. This is really interesting. My passion actually lies there in community work, community-based service and training. So it has really been a very wonderful presentation for me. I can see there is a question for you. What is the channel of getting involved at local level? What is the channel of getting involved at local level? Mm-hmm. That is to you, Paula.
That is an excellent question. The way that the Avina Foundation works is that we never work alone. We have a network of more than 4,000 allies in Latin America, and also we're starting, as you have seen today, working in other continents as well. And we value and we cherish these alliances that we have built at different levels. So when we work in the Brazilian semi-arid, or we work in the Chaco region, we do that cherishing and going in with local NGOs, local community leaders. We help build that confidence first with a lot of respect. And I think that's how we gain the authority to then continue working in the region. And as long as we demonstrate that we are what our goal is, and that we are all working together to reach that goal, I think that is the key. Full transparency and a lot of horizontal knowledge sharing and work. So in summary, we do not work alone. We work with allies that are mostly local allies and that have already gained that trust.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you so much. Yeah, I think there is a question to Emmanuel.
Hola. Paula, thank you for your intervention. My name is Aide. I have been working in a research about Guarani water cosmology, and we have a publication that we can share with you that probably could be useful in your work. And I have a question. How did you work with the people to accept the reused water?
Well,
Paula?
yes, when I shared that system, it was implemented in Brazil and it does work, and it happened through a lot of community work and a lot of workshops. It was actually an idea from the community, so this wasn't imposed. When I talked about ASA, la articulación del semiárido, it's a network of more than 3,000 local NGOs in these 10 Brazilian states. And what they do is basically they collect the best practices that are already being employed. So it was a matter of a best practice transferring to a different community and a different community and a different community. So with a lot of education through kids, getting to the family through the kids, and it just took a few examples of them realizing that, it wasn't smelly, that it wasn't dirty, and it was, I guess, generalized as a best practice and implemented.
Okay, thank you so much. There is a question to Emmanuel. Emmanuel, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, there is a question to you. What are the practices, the capacities, the best capacities that you found that helped the design and implementation? What capacities did you find that helped the design and implementation?
That is a good question. I mean, we are still in the process of installing our system, but so far, I think what we have identified as capacity building need for the communities that we are intending to work with are basic capacity building. Like, for example, maybe to be able to know how an irrigation system works, so that they should be able to put it on, put it off. In a situation whereby there is, because since we intend also to do rainwater harvesting from the PV system, to be able to know that sometimes this collection pipe could be blocked from time to time, be able to clean it. So these are just basic capacity building to show kind of a minimal maintenance. But when there is something very critical, then they will need to call an expert, a company, a maintenance company, which might be far away from their site. So definitely, we plan to build capacity in those communities, but it's going to be very basic form of capacity building. It could be also understanding the business approach, how to collect their money, how to calculate, also to perform basic calculation on how to make savings and how to make a benefit. So these are things that we will take into consideration, because the aim also is to establish a sustainable business model for those communities, so that even after our project, the returns should be able to maintain the system. Yeah, since at least the challenge also is that it's a remote community, and the level also of education, it's also something to take into consideration. That is why just a minimal form of capacity building will be needed in the community.
Okay, thank you so much. It has been a very wonderful engagement. Time is not on our side, but I would like to request the researchers and the practitioners to share your emails in the chat, so that you can further be engaged. Those who have questions can further engage you. And because these are really very interesting case studies that can really help our local communities, and also in the climate change interventions, especially in the mitigation and the adaptation. So I would like you to share, before we close, to share your contacts. And because there was a question to Professor Kadu and the capacities that are needed, if I could borrow maybe some 2 minutes to Professor Kadu to explain to us the capacities that need to be built while assessing these climate risks in the research systems. Professor Kadu, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. I'm listening.
All right.
Do you get?
What are those capacities that need to be built?
Well, we categorize the capacities into institutional capacities, capacities linked to the individual people, the people themselves, the human resource, and then the capacities linked to knowledge. So each one of these has a vast range of capacities. But the key thing is that there is the inbuilt, innate capacity within the community to respond for survival. Because the area we worked in, the geographical area, is the cattle corridor. It is a diagonal kind of just geographical area stretching from the southwest, the Congo border, Central Africa, and then to northeastern, western Kenya. Now, this geographical area is the granary of the country. That's where we get a lot of agriculture. And also, it is the area where we've got the source of the river Nile, the second largest river, comes from that area. But at the same time, you get drought hits. So over the years, people have that innate capacity. So the ability to or tapping on that is also an asset that the people are aware of that, just waiting to. But I wanted to link this to what Chio presented, the water harvesting. We've had technology needs assessment. So I'm diverting a little bit from your question, but it's highly linked to the Nexus. We've had in Uganda a TNA study, technology needs assessment, and the UNCCC. They're funding for that. I hope you're aware of that you can get from the CTCN. Funding for identification of technologies that are needed. So we looked at it for sectors, the water sector, agriculture, energy. But the top technology was rooftop rainwater harvesting.
I'm sorry, Mr. Kadu, we need to, due to the time constraints, we need to close the session. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes, that's right. So I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's about it. Thank you. About you, Chair.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. It has been a wonderful time having to hear from you. Professor Kadu, just in seconds, share your email, and also Dr. Zo, kindly share your email. And yeah, my closing remarks are that it has really been a pleasure for me to moderate. You've really done a good work. It is really impressive, and it is really inspirational to us, the young climate leaders. And we see there is hope that things are possible. Like the work that we are doing in the food, water, and energy sector, our contribution to the climate adaptation and mitigation intervention actually will get results, will actually yield results. This is encouraging, and it's very important. Us as young people, we really need such encouragements from you. So I would like to close here, unless there is anything maybe from UNESCO, but I kindly, at this moment, close the webinar. And we have the recording. It has been recorded, and if you're interested in getting to know, to share it out, to share what we have talked about today, you can reach me, or you can reach Natalia for the recording. Otherwise, thank you so much. A good morning, a good day, a good evening. Here in Uganda, it is a good evening and a good afternoon. Bye.
Thank you. We close now.